John, today I want to talk about sharing ideas.
Oh, good one.
We all have them, right? We all have them, but what I wanted to focus on is how can we better share our ideas, whether it's with our friends, investors, or at work, of course. How can we get better at sharing ideas?
Yeah, that's a good one.
I'll start with one of my tips and advices when it comes to having ideas and sharing your ideas. This is more related in the aspect of in the work environment. So for me, when I'm working on something, when I'm working to solve some specific problem at work, and I have this idea that might be a little too blue sky, I like to make it interactive. So what I mean by that is if I'm working with a group of 10 engineers, which happens sometimes, our ratio is crazy sometimes, or whether it's with PMs or whoever, I like to make my sharing ideas meeting or session, whatever you want to call it, very interactive. And what I mean by that is I might have an idea that's 100% complete in my mind or on paper or whatever, but I only bring it with 80% done. And what I mean by that is I share my idea 80% in hopes that whoever else is involved in this session will help me complete the 20%. It's cool to bring ideas to the table, but it's even better when people start interacting with your idea and going beyond that.
Yeah, and for that sake, I think it's also great to create a relaxed setting for the people who are going to be hearing these ideas, especially if you're looking for reviews from them or just critiques or them adding to it. And make sure the setting is the one in which they feel very relaxed and comfortable and whatnot, so they can put their best mental work toward whatever you're talking about. And I personally like to be really prepared for these things. I'm the person who is super prepared, but tries to pretend like it's just all off the cuff, I'm like that
right.
freestyle rapper who just writes things ahead of time. Mm-hmm. And one important thing for me is to also let them know what type of what stage I'm at, what type of feedback I'm looking for, what type of things I want to be have expanded upon. So it makes a big difference too, depending on the crowd though, whether or not you're looking for a green light, you're pitching it to
sure.
Executive or something, looking for the green light to actually start this project. And for me, usually, it depends on the stage, but I also like to have people break my ideas. I am the person who, comes up with an idea. I'm like, okay, is there anything that any holes in this that you can, sense, just break this, just tear this to pieces. If you can, invite that skepticism earlier on, so that, you don't, get too blue sky, as you call it, and into a state, into a state that's way out of reality.
Yeah, I like that part of it too, because, and that's one of the nice things about sharing ideas with a group of people or whoever you're working with, is that they will pull you back, right? They will say, hey, there's no way that we can build a flying car at this startup.
Yeah.
But what we could do is maybe we can tweak the car that's outside in the back.
Yeah.
So maybe your idea isn't as crazy.
Yeah.
And they'll just pull you back. So I think that's a good point.
Yeah. I'll have the Kitty Hawk reference there too, by the way.
And so I think that's an excellent way to think about it. And I think you bring up a good point in the sense that there is no such thing as a crazy idea, really, because that's what it is, right? It's just an idea. I'm not saying that, this could be the way to solve this problem.
I hear crazy ideas all the time when you're talking about
and that's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a great way. I think every team should have a person with those crazy ideas. The crazy uncle at Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. You should have a crazy designer on your team who can come up with this thinking, but most importantly, spark that thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
What about, is there anything else?
Yeah, a big one, and I'd love for you to expand on this because I know you do this a lot as well, but depending on the person, frame a great story involving it, a digestible story. This is the part where preparation comes ahead for me. You want to make sure whatever your idea is can be completely assessed in the person's mind that you're sharing it with. So the best way to do this is by writing a great story and scenario for why this is a great idea. And Dennis is a genius at this, so I'm sure you can share more than I can about that. But that's one thing I like to do in particular.
Yeah, I think there's no surprise. I think everyone who knows me, they know that I love a good story. But more than a good story, I love telling a good story. And that's one of the techniques and tools that I use to solve problems at work is through storytelling, because it really gives me an understanding of all types of situation within the problem. And John's right. Like if you can figure out what that story is within that problem, you will find so many innovative ways or so many little details that will get you to become a better problem solver.
Yeah. And in that same line too, another thing I love is like kind of sharing the before and after, like what the experience that you're like, is, what the experience that you're trying to create is solving for. Like, what was it like before this idea? And, and that you can form that into your story, but it makes makes for a great way to show perspective.
Yes.
And what you're doing there. So, which is the biggest thing for me. My biggest point in all of this is to like design with like, vision and purpose, and think with vision and purpose. Don't, if you just think of something cool, like make sure it's actually serving a great purpose, because that helps you frame the value and, explain the rationale on every single point within your idea.
Yeah.
And be very confident and upbeat as well.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than a person who has an idea and they don't even sound very excited about it. You gotta be confident. Even if you do like, kind of have some like holes in your mind, it's like, oh, I don't know this, be confident and show a lot of charisma, and, and that will take you a long way toward actually getting other people excited about your idea.
Yeah. And John brings up a good point. This is something I share with my team all the time. When you're up there and you're presenting to leadership or stakeholders or whatever, and you notice there's a mistake in your presentation, or you notice there's something wrong, don't let them know, because most likely they won't know that you made a mistake. So don't show it. Stay confident. That's a great point. So that does it for today's episode. We hope that you got some good advice and tips on sharing ideas with your team, with your coworkers, with your friends, your families, investors, whoever it may be. If you'd like to reach out to John and I, please visit angelocamachogroup.com, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening. Cheers.